Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race, we are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 396 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited that you're here and excited that episode 400 is coming up fast. We do have a special guest for that episode. I'm excited to share more about that coming soon. But for now, I just want to thank you for being a loyal listener, for being there, for joining me in these conversations, for having an open mind and being willing to learn. I really love hearing your feedback. Those of you who have left reviews on iTunes, I really, really appreciate those. Those help a lot in being discovered in the podcast, as does when you share them. So thank you for those of you who have done that. Also for your reviews of Becoming a Sustainable Runner on Amazon. I appreciate those too. Now, today I am excited to bring on Tiffany Martin to the show. She is a friend of mine. She is the founder and race director for the Not Just for Runners 5K, which you're going to hear more about today. She's also the founder of Elevated Health and Community. Tiffany does a lot of consulting, and you will soon see why she is such a guiding light in my life with the wisdom that she shares with me, the insights. She really challenges me to be a better person every time I speak to her, and I really love that. And I think you're going to get a lot out of this episode too. So let's go take a word from one of our sponsors. We'll be right to this episode with Tiffany Martin. Thank you to Precision for your support of me and the Running for Real podcast. I hoped I would be running lots of ultras this year. That is not my reality. I am having surgery, and that's going to mean ultras are definitely not something I'm going to be doing, at least in the first half of the year. But one of the beautiful things about this is that it does give me the opportunity to really train and practice my stomach, because one of the biggest things for us as runners is getting our fueling correctly. And if, by the way, you don't know how much fuel you should be taking, how much hydration, electrolytes you should be taking, Precision has a free fuel and electrolyte or fuel and hydration planner. It's free. You don't have to use Precision stuff, but you should definitely go check out the links in the show notes to go get yourself that planner, use it, make the most of it. You can also get a free consultation with the Precision team. No strings attached, just go take opportunity of that. That is in the show notes. But today I want to talk about practicing. So one of the biggest things is practicing your gel and nutrition. And for me, that's something I was never particularly good at when I was running at my best. And I know I left a lot of time on the table by not doing that. So that's where while I have been biking, I'm up to 34 miles, hoping to get to 50 before I go in for my surgery. With that, I've been able to test out the gels. The PF30 gels has 30 grams of carb. They go down easily. You don't get flavor fatigue. They are just enjoyable to take down, even not just for a gel, just in general. And I definitely encourage you to go check them out. If you use code Tina Sent Me at precisionhydration.com, you can get yourself 15% off. That is code Tina Sent Me. Go check out their gels, go check out their chews, their electrolytes. They will take care of you, and I'm excited to hear what you think. Go check it out. Tiffany, my friend, I am excited to welcome you to the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for joining me.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know. I love that you and I first connected probably about 6 months ago. And now we've seen each other 2 times, spoken on the phone many times. And
yes.
I've really loved that this has been a dive-in friendship. And every time I talk to you, the listeners don't know this, but Tiffany was just giving me a big pep talk about going into my surgery, which is next week as of this recording. Although by the time you hear this, it'll be in my recovery period. But you always just have the right advice at the right time, and I just really cherish it, because it's always very thoughtful and intentional with what you say, and just wise and I don't know. I really just admire and appreciate you. So I want to start off by saying that.
Well, thank you. No, I'm touched. No, those are very kind words. I'm glad if something I say can inspire you or anybody else, then that's a win for me.
Yeah. And I do want to go into a few different areas today based on the leadership that you give within the running community, within, you know, just a leadership on its own space, with your nonprofit, and with your 5K, which we're going to talk about, which is very exciting and very unique and important in so many ways. But I want to begin by talking through the moment you thought to yourself, I want to be in this community of runners, or I am in this community of runners. I'd love to hear that moment where that conscious thought went through your mind of like, wow, I like it here.
That's a great question. No one's ever asked me that. So my running journey began in high school. I ran track and field. I did the 4x1, the 4x4, the open 4, and triple jump were the events I did. And I found myself in a position where our coaches would always make the sprinters run 800 meters just for endurance, right? They didn't care how we finished, but it was a must. We had to do it. And we had an international track meet where we had people from everywhere. And they were like, okay, Tiffany, we don't need you to do anything except finish. Just cross the line. We don't care what the time is. We just need points on the board for teams. And I ran the 800 and I didn't come in last. I think I came in third that event. And I was within like a couple of minutes of our school record. And so they wouldn't let me stop. And I think that was like my first taste of distance endurance running. Because, you know, as a sprinter, you keep it fast. And even the 400 was torturous for me. So the idea of having to do the 400 twice was just, it really was torturous in my head.
Well, an 800 is a special kind of torture.
It is. It totally is. And people don't get it. They're like, oh, but you can relax. No. People sprint the 800 meters now. There really isn't a lot of downtime or, you know, to take your foot off the throttle. So I kind of fell into running that way and extended. I don't think there was ever a conscious thought like, I want to be a runner. I think it was just kind of knowing I had some natural athleticism and running could allow me to be independent of a team in my performance, but also to compete with a team. Whereas like basketball, I was too short. Football, not really offered for women at that time. So for me, it was just something where I found the ability to find my own lane, literally and figuratively, within the sport. I think it was many years later when I resumed running, because I didn't run in college. I worked and put myself through college, and I didn't have the opportunity to be part of a collegiate sport. So it was post-graduation from college that I resumed running. And I think that's when I realized like, oh crap, I am a runner. Like I keep referring to other people as being runners. And it just kind of hit me like, no, I'm a runner also. So yeah, it's kind of neat to just kind of fall into it, not specifically feeling like being a runner was the objective, but just finding my place in sports and athleticism and then realizing all this time I have been a runner. So it's been a blessing. Here we are, like almost 4 decades later, you know?
So what do you remember about those first few runs or that moment you decided to come back to it after college?
You know, it's interesting because I can't even remember my first half, but I remember my first full, which was a New York City marathon in 2009. And never in a million years did I think I would be running those kind of distances. And so one day, I think it was last year, I don't know, I just decided to look, if you're familiar with the website @links, they can track, you know, the different events and stuff you do if you're registered with them. And so I've been registered with them for a while, and I decided, let me go back and just count how many marathons and halves I've done. And I was flabbergasted to realize I had done more than 10 marathons and over 55 halves.
55,
and the
wow.
majority of that has been since the age of 30. So that's only been the last couple of decades for me. So I've done more in my 30s and 40s athletically than I did in my 20s and under. And I feel very blessed and privileged to be able to make that statement that I'm in good health and I can run and show up the way I want to.
What are some of the progressions that you've gone through with a mindset, mental perspective, and in the approach to those runs over, let's take those 55 half marathons. I'm assuming you've gone through some, for lack of a better word, like eras related to
Sure.
that of your races.
That's interesting because I think I'm kind of in that transitionary stage now where I'm redefining how I want to show up as a runner. There are a lot of African runners at the distance level, but you don't see a lot of Black, and by Black, I mean Black American, non-African, African in heritage, but not residential to Africa. And I felt like I had to prove that I was capable of earning a spot in the distance space. There was an assumption that, well, of course I could run track and field, right? Of course I could sprint, but being an endurance runner was a little different. And so looking at some of the founding runners and just learning more about the history of running and then just going through life. I'm a mom and I gave birth at 39. Running while nursing was an experience. Running post childbirth. I did my first marathon 6 months after I gave birth. And it was just to be a testament to the health of my child and the health of my body. I didn't care what my time was. It was one of the slowest marathons I've done, but I completed it. And I was excited to complete it because I still had the physical ability to show up and do it. So just over time, I think feeling like I have to show up a certain way has started to shift for me. And I'm started to refocus on just enjoying running for what it is for me, what it does for my body, and more importantly, for my mind. And that's a big shift for me personally. It is because there was no pressure. I think there was no overt pressure. People weren't saying like, you have to be fast, you have to do this thing, meet this standard. But I think there's a social and a societal expectation that frames body type and structure, as well as speed and pace, and how you define yourself as being accomplished as a runner. And I fell into that. And I won't say it was a bad thing. It wasn't. I think I pushed some boundaries with it for myself and my own personal performance, but I realized it wasn't everything. And it's okay to just be a casual runner. Just go out and enjoy the road or the trail, the scenery or the event. And that's been a good place to come back to.
Yeah. And I love that you've reached that point there. And what you said about, the representation piece of there being a lot of, runners coming from Africa winning these races, people assuming like that, just kind of putting those runners particularly in a separate box of like, those runners are going to win everything. They're naturally gifted, but they're not seeing that representation within the mass of the field. And a podcast that I did with Knox Robinson a few years ago, the first episode we chose to do of these 11 episodes tackling challenges in the running space. The first one was called The List. And it was about the fact at the time, only 20 US born Black women had broken 3 hours in the marathon.
Yeah.
And now I think it's at like 32 or something.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, that's insane. And that was very much those women. A lot of them didn't see, as you said, were pushed into the box of like sprints, short distance, as teenagers, as kids, and then just didn't really see that representation within running themselves. So that is a big pressure that is put on. You said all those years you were aware of that, and probably well aware of the fact that you were one of very few within the race itself, so you had to represent. And I'm glad that you've been able to find peace with that. Is there anything else you want to share on that topic of just what it feels like?
I would say, as a master's athlete, I'm blessed to celebrate my 50th birthday this year. Mm-hmm. And don't let anyone make you feel like athleticism has an age limit, because it does not. Mm. We will transition in how we show up. You might spend more time on recovery and rest than you used to, but these are all okay things. But I would just really want to, I guess my word of encouragement would be, whether you're recovering from injuries or as you're starting to get older and do more, you just realize what you want to do or how you perform is different. That's exactly what it is. It's different. It's not done. And I sustained an injury last year, a groin pull that took me out of 3 larger races that I had wanted to do: Chicago Marathon, Tokyo, and a Ragnar trail run. And I felt really kind of, it's just that feeling of like, gosh darn it, why did this happen now? What's going on? I've never sustained this injury before. Why now? And I really just had to, pep talk myself and say, I'm not done. And I was fortunate to have a physical therapist who saw that I wasn't done and allowed me to just do a couple of things to make me feel better. And surprisingly, it was some weight training. She's like, let's go deadlift. You want to deadlift? And I was like, yeah, I do. We laughed about it afterwards. But I would just say, doing things differently is not necessarily a bad thing. And that you can still embrace every aspect of being an athlete. As you get older, even as your body changes, your expectations can change, and they might change for the more. Like, you might get after it and want to do more. It doesn't necessarily, I think people think of age as a limiting factor, and I don't think it has to be.
So for someone who is feeling that pressure, if you said you obviously had a great physiotherapist,
yeah.
Who did encourage you, did say you could do this, but if someone feels like they're coming up against the opposite of where people keep saying, well, you're getting older, so maybe it is time to say bye to running, or maybe it is time to do something else. What would you say there?
I'd say follow your heart. That's first and foremost. Secondly, surround yourself with, or I would say, make it a goal to get the information you need to make an informed decision about what you do and don't want to do. Mm-hmm. There are so many options out there in terms of, just the recovery space for athletes has changed drastically over the past handful of decades. So there are a lot of practitioners and individuals who will feel like, nope, you're done. But for every 100 of them, you can find one that says, yeah, not necessarily. And I say, make it an option, make it a priority to seek that voice out, to look at all aspects and options, even the ones that you think you would never consider, so that you can make an informed decision about what you want for yourself. Because I do believe where there's a will, there's a way. And it's just a matter of negotiating how you want to show up and what you're willing to what's the give, what's the take.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You may not be able to do it exactly the way you want to do it, but how can you show up in a way that brings you peace and fulfillment? And I do think you can meet that metric with resources that are available to you. So I say, start with your heart, seek the information and the support you need, and put a plan together. Start the plan, figure out what that takes.
Friends, I am on a mission. I really believe that the running community, most of us out there, will eventually shift over to carrying our own fuel, be it a collapsible cup, be it our own handheld item, be it bottles within a vest. I really think most runners are not only capable of doing that, but should be doing that because it is actually best for our running. You heard Fiona O'Keefe a few weeks ago say that she would rather carry her own fuel than take on the fuel that is on the course. And same goes with hydration there. And I think that is a very good point, because when we have our own fuel, our own bottle, our own hydration in our hand, we are able to sip it. We are able to take it in as we go. We are able to refill it maybe once, maybe not at all throughout the whole race, rather than doing the awkward dance that we have with volunteers when trying to grab cups. I absolutely love the Sky Flask Speed from HydroPack. I have been working with HydroPack this year because I genuinely believe they have the answers figured out here. This soft flask is so easy to hold on to. You don't actually have to hold it. It breaks down really small, so it doesn't take up a ton of weight in your hand. Handhelds have come a long way, and HydroPack has been leading the charge, including the speed refill that they have now, where you can just flip the lid open, fill it up, snap it back down, and get on with your run if you even need a refill at all. Check out HydroPack for not only this Sky Flask Speed that they have in 3 different sizes, a 350, a 500, and one that keeps it cool, but also they have the cups there. Those of you who have been asking me about reusable cups, go check out hydropack.com/pages/Tina to go find out more. I love what HydroPack is doing. I really believe this is the future, and I want you to jump on board. Go check out HydroPack. That's hydrapack.com/pages/Tina. I'll see you over there. This is one part of the word health. This is one element of that, and health is a particularly important word to you, and as part of the reason you recently founded a nonprofit, Elevated Health and Community. So tell us about that word and when it became clear to you that this was something that more people needed to give their attention to.
Great question. I love that. And you're so right, Tina. Health. I think when we think of health, we think of the traditional things like nutrition, fitness, exercise. We think medicinal in terms of doctors, and we think healthcare, our traditional healthcare systems. When I speak of health, I'm speaking of anything that has a positive or negative impact on how we show up day in and day out to do the things we need to do and the things we want to do. So for me, the term health is a lot broader than just healthcare and nutrition and eating and exercise. How you choose to style your hair can be a part of your health. The clothes you wear when you're in a business meeting or in a social environment can be part of your health. How you represent self, along with the surgeries, the medicines, the traditional healthcare system. And so I founded Elevated Health and Community because I recognize that health is a privilege in our country. It really is. And I believe theoretically we believe it to be a right, but the way our systems are structured, it really is a privilege. And I want to encourage and challenge brands and events and healthcare providers to redefine and broaden how they show up and how they define health and health options for patients and clients. Because I think the more preventative we can become, the easier we can shift from being a sick care system to really being a health care system. Mm-hmm. One that cares about the health and wants to invest at the front end rather than when someone's sick and ailing and requires repair. So that's big to me. And I also recognize that marginalized communities, statistically and historically, have a different track record with how health alternatives are presented and their history with the healthcare system. And so We want to bring at Elevated Health and Community, we want to bring the access, information, and resources to any and everyone who needs it to make informed, high quality health decisions for themselves and loved ones. But we recognize that marginalized communities have different barriers. And so we have a particular focus for individuals within those communities.
For someone who has a loved one or a friend or someone they care about who is in that kind of cycle of, like you said, sick health. I can't remember how you worded it exactly, but of, you know, kind of chasing ailments, chasing things that are going wrong. Really, you can see that their health isn't well-rounded and isn't being considered from all areas, whether that is an intentional choice or it's something that they just don't know any different. What advice would you have to that person who just finds it painful to see someone they love and care about struggle, but without knowing where to start?
I happen to be a health advocate for several members in my family, and their ailments range from high blood pressure to pancreatic cancer. So I've had a lot of exposure in seeing what quality informed healthcare looks like, and also what it looks like when they just tell you the first thing. And then you're like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. The first thing I would say is talk to the individual. Find out what they feel they need, because the frustration and the struggle may come in them feeling like they have an understanding of what they need, but they don't feel like anyone else does. There could also be the other side of the coin. They don't know what they need. Yeah. They are clueless and they need assistance. So offering to go with someone to an appointment, to be present during a conversation. I have found that people who offer services and information are just inherently held to a higher level of accountability when there's someone else in the room. When you bring someone in, when my mother goes in and talks to her doctor is one thing, but when I go in with her, doctor's on notice now. Okay, sure. Her daughter's here with her. Why is her daughter here? What is it that her daughter feels she needs to receive from me or hear to better understand what's going on? And so I would say, don't be afraid to offer to say, hey, do you want me to come with you? Is there anything I can help you research or look into? Do you know what your options are? How did you feel about what they told you or what they didn't tell you? That's something too. Was there a piece of information you thought you would hear that was not brought up, no reference to? Ask the questions. I think people forget that even our medical and health providers are service providers. Just the way you would ask a waitress to take something back or ask the kitchen to cook something well done instead of rare, you can ask doctors, hey, I would like some more information. Can you send me over? Do you have any research papers you can point me to that explain this a little more? Do you have any videos I can watch that talk about this? There are so many resources out there. And I think sometimes our providers, they're just overwhelmed with the number of people in which they have to care for. Yeah. And they are living their lives too. Life is lifing for them as well. And I think sometimes their goal is just very singular. It's to fix you. And they don't always take into account what fixing means to you. And so I think just letting folks know that you're there as a support, that really is the first step, right? Explicitly saying, hey, I'm here. Let me know what you need. I don't know that I can do it all, but I can do something. Yeah. Is really step one. And then from there, being able to offer your time or support in terms of getting the information or accompanying someone in an appointment or to be a second set of ears can really be valuable, because I'm sure you know, Tina, you and I can sit in the same meeting and walk away with different bullet points. Sure. Absolutely. Even though we heard the exact same words. And so having people who can do that for you when it comes to your health can also be very beneficial. For sure. No. And it also, there's a ways of showing, I care about you and your health and I want to be there for you.
that in itself can often motivate people who feel stuck to, take some pride and love in themselves as well, because they see you being able to do it, like leading the way. So thank you for that. Another element of this word health is what you have created through your race, the Not Just for Runners 5K, which is in its second year this year. So can you tell us a bit about what that is and why you chose that name? I mean, I think you'll explain that, but...
No. So Not Just for Runners. I'm located in Sacramento, California. So it's a local race. I've been running races. I know the majority of our race directors out here, they're wonderful. They're supportive. But I noticed that geographically, there were just certain areas where races weren't being held. And I think 2020 was really the impetus. I was feeling a lot of things in 2020 around Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. I'm also former law enforcement. So there was just a lot of social things happening around social justice and racial equity that just really hit me personally from my lived perspectives. And I was in a lot of circles where I might have been one or the only Black or female individual. And so people were asking questions. And as I started to give advisement and consulting, two things were born out of it. One, my consulting business, TK Martin Consulting. I had someone tap me and say, hey, this is advisement. You're helping organizations get their stuff together. That's a viable job. Consider it. And then the second thing that was born out of it is I had a friend who said, why are you trying to work with everyone to host the kind of event that you're capable of doing yourself? Just do it. And I will never forget her words. Just do it your damn self. And I was like, but I'm not a race director. Even though I've been a part of so many running events as a track and field and cross country coach, as a participant, I was just hesitant. So I sat on her words for almost 3 years. So we hit 2022, and Sacramento Running Week is a collaborative event out here where it's kind of like an open house week for all our run clubs and organizations. And we work with our local brands to represent REI, Fleet Feet, Brooks Running are all part of it. And I happened to be speaking to one of the REI reps, and I said, I have an idea about a 5K, but I don't think it would be very big. And he looked at me and he said, well, even if you only get 50 people, that's 50 people more than if you didn't do it. So we'd want to be a part of that. Let us know. And I don't know what made me say it to him. And just getting that external confirmation, I said, let's do it. So in fall of 2022, I started thinking about it more and pulled the trigger in January 2023. And by May of 2023, before I knew it, I had put together a 5K and a 1 mile event in South Sacramento, which was an area that did not have a lot of race events or any at all. I used a park, so I didn't have to pay to cut off streets because there was a nice paved bike trail along the Sacramento River. And we only had 100 people register, and it rained that morning. The majority of participants were community, not what you would consider hardcore runners, community. And we still had a 75% show rate, even in the rain. And it was just great. We had Ainsley's Angels, where the runners push the seated athletes in race chariots. We had one gentleman who was in a wheelchair from an accident. He was in a drunk driving accident. And for whatever reason, he decided he was going to walk his first mile. So I left the course open for 2 hours, the 5K and the 1 mile, and it took him 1 hour and 52 minutes. And his partner wheeled an empty wheelchair alongside of him for almost 2 hours as he slowly took steps. And it was a great event, small, but mighty. And I wasn't sure I'd do it again. And I got the support. And so REI wound up being my title sponsor last year. I'm proud and appreciative that they're back this year along with On Running to be my presenting sponsors for this year's event. And we're growing, and Running for Real is helping me with the sustainability aspect, and HydroPack to have reusable cups so I can have a cupless race. And then I'm just excited. It really was a community event, and really the purpose of it was to just foster and bolster mental and physical health and well-being within marginalized communities, but just in a safe, supportive way that builds community for their businesses, the residences, and the parks. There were people there who said they've been to that park before, but they hadn't been to it in years. And a lot of people who had never run or walked along that trail. So just really being able to take a space that we often just, utilize, but hadn't thought of utilizing it in that way, and bring people out and have small businesses showcase and be vendors, sell their goods. We had community health and wellness classes. I just really wanted it to be a truly inclusive event. And we had ages 3 through 78 participate.
That's amazing.
And it felt good. So we're excited to be able to bring it back this year and to bring it under the umbrella of Elevated Health and Community. Not just for runners. I don't know if I said it. Not just for runners. Yes. That was the event name, because I wanted it to be not just for runners. And so I'm excited.
Taking care of your health isn't always easy, but it should at least be simple. That's why for the last 5 years, I've been drinking AG1 every day. No exceptions. 1 scoop mixed in water once a day, every day. And it makes me feel good. I feel energized. I can take on the day knowing no matter what happens, no matter what my food intake looks like, I have taken care of myself. That's because each serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more. It's a powerfully healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. I know with AG1, I'm getting this high quality nutrition. Every batch goes through this rigorous testing process so you know it's safe. Their ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrient density. If there's one product I had to recommend to elevate your health, it's AG1. And that's why I've partnered with them for so long. So if you want to take ownership of your health, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2 and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/Tina. That's drinkag1.com/Tina. Check it out. Well, let's speak to that piece for a minute then, the not just for runners piece. That name in itself probably caught the attention of some people, including that man that you said walked his first mile. Why do you think it's important to have, for most people listening to this podcast, they're probably people who, like you and I have been established runners for a while. It's hard to imagine being in a place where you could look at a local 5K and say, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Why do you think it's important to have an event like this where it is so I don't want to say the bar is low, but the barrier to entry is so low that it makes them feel welcomed enough that they can take that courageous step of the first try? Why is that important?
I think it's important because there are a lot of individuals who want the experience that a formalized 5K and 1 mile event give, but they may feel that they are not a runner, right? And so they won't ever go that route because they don't think that route is for them. They don't think they're the target audience. They don't think the path is paved for them. They know they're slower and there's cutoff times. Admittedly, as a smaller event, there's a lot of things I can do that may require more logistical preparation with a larger event, but can be expanded to larger events as well. Community was my goal, but I wanted the experience to be authentic. And so I lowered the price. We only charge $25. And it included all the things. There were still giveaways. You got a swag bag. As a matter of fact, we had Running While Black as part of the gift books. They were in the swag bag.
So everyone got a copy?
All of our everyone got a copy.
Wow, that's cool.
Everyone got a copy. Yeah, Bras for Girls was a great sponsor in providing that for us. I wanted people to feel like they could take their time. Course is open for 2 hours. Most 5Ks are not open that long. I was in a position because we weren't cutting off traffic. I could use that public thoroughfare for that. I had people say, hey, I appreciate the price. I can't afford to spend $100 to run a race. And I know people will say, well, 5Ks don't cost that much. And you're right. They don't. But when you think about shoes and then you think about getting to and from the event, and then you think about the registration fee, and if you train for it, there can be a lot of financial hurdles. But I wanted people to understand every hurdle isn't fiscal. Sometimes people just feel like the space isn't for them. They don't feel comfortable in the space. And that's what I really wanted. I wanted people to feel comfortable. I wanted, whether you were 3 or 78, to get out there and feel like you feel accomplished, to feel like you were moving your body in a way that was productive and healthy and that inspired you to keep on doing it. And so that is why I think it's important, because if people don't feel like spaces and events are for them, they're never going to venture into them. And it doesn't mean they don't have the means to participate. It means the desire may not be there because they think they're not seeing otherwise. They're not seeing anything that indicates to them it's for them. And I often try to tell, especially within my consulting, as I do work in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, that being welcoming is not the same as being inclusive. A lot of events are very welcoming, but they don't necessarily include all participants. They don't make sure that everyone has an equitable experience. And that's really what I tried to focus on with this event. And so I was okay that it was small and 100 people. And this year we're looking to grow it. We're looking to double, and just move from there and get more people to come out and realize they can do it, and to get more traditional runners to realize it's for them too. I mean, my fastest last year was just around 20 minutes. So she's a runner. And I love that she came and showed up as her authentic running self, even for a community event. And that didn't put off any of my other participants. They were like, you do you get to the front, you run fast, and we're going to do us. And everybody felt comfortable. And that's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see that comfort across all the different levels of performance. And so that was really what I think is important. And I think that event producers can be more mindful of is, what is the experience across the demographic of your participants? Does the first finisher and the last finisher, does the event resonate with them in the same way or in comparable ways, right? It's going to be different, of course, but do they still feel just as fulfilled and accomplished? And that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
I love that you put that much heart and energy and time and resources into this, because I've really got to experience this in full with the runs that I've done with Kaylee Williamson, who, ran New York, ran the United Airlines half with Down syndrome. And she, getting to see, the difference of getting to hear from her mum, Sandy, the difference in how, New York grid runners went above and beyond to make sure that every runner that they could make feel like they were valued, that they had, like you said, a similarly equitable experience, compared to other races where barricades were being taken down as we were going along, or the sweeping trucks are going by, and how demoralizing that is. I mean, Sandy had told me about the last half marathon they did before New York half. There was 2 women that came next to them at one point, and they said, and they ended up going in together because one of the women had said, I was about to call an Uber. I felt so lonely out here. I was about to give up. And so like hearing the difference of what that makes when you make it a welcoming space for everyone. And that's not to say that every race can do that. You know, New York Road Runners has a lot of pull in the city of New York, so they can. But it's important, as you said, to make sure these events do exist. And thank you for the time and energy that you've put into this. I want to now go into the other side of this, of the person putting this on, you doing this. What about someone who has this dream of doing something similar, has this someone that they care about deeply, who they want to make an event with them in mind, but it is scary to do something like that. Like what you did there, you said you had 100 people sign up, 75 attended, but that had to be pretty stressful of like, well, what if 5 people, sign up for this? Like, what do I do? So talk to that piece.
No, it really can be scary, but I would say I'm a very analytically minded individual. So I do a lot of research, right? So my first thought was, okay, I'm going to do it, but how much does it take to do it? And who can I ask and how can I do it? Because I didn't have the nonprofit last year. So I did this under my for-profit business, TK Martin Consulting. But I wanted people to sponsor, and I wanted there to be an opportunity to provide a tax deduction. So I researched and I found inourbackyards.org, IOB.org, and they served as my fiscal sponsor as a nonprofit. And they also were my donation platform. So all fiscal donations were 100% tax deductible. And so that was something that was important to me because I wanted people to trust that I was using the money for what I said the money was going to. And I wanted them to feel like they had some security in fiscally or even in-kind donations supporting the event. And so I would say there are resources out there. Talk to people who've done it. I was very blessed. I am a mentor on Game Changers. And we're a group of Black, Indigenous, and women of color who are run coaches. And so I put the ask out there. I want to talk to Black female race directors. I don't care where they're located, to kind of just get some advisement. And so I was able to be put in touch with 2 phenomenal women who are run coaches, but also do local events, and for them to share what their experience was and to give me a little feedback. If you're doing something brand new, there's still usually a template of something else that's taken place that you can kind of glean some information or foundation from, even if it's not exactly what you're doing. And so seek out those resources, ask. I mean, people have reached out to me since then to say, hey, and even I talked to folks at New York Road Runners and they were like, tell me about your team. And I'm like, you mean the day of for getting to the event? And they were like, no, leading up to it. And I'm like, I am the team. And so, it's funny to have those kind of conversations, but you can. So I would say you don't know until you know. So get out there and try it. Take your first step. Ask people, get some buy-in, build up the resources you need. You don't have to do it alone. And even though I was the primary coordinator, there were a lot of people who helped to make it happen in terms of their fiscal support, their in-kind support, just being willing to take a flyer and put it in their store or their establishment. Don't feel like you don't have a support. When they say it takes a village, that's a very real thing. And even if you are the primary curator, like I was, understand that other people showed up on my behalf to help me make the event a success. And so I think just do it, right? And I'm one of those people. I don't know how others are, but I rather do it and crash and burn than live with the concept of what would have happened. I'd rather know than not know.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah. I mean, I'm with you there. And I know it can be scary, but as Tiffany said, there's other resources. Reach out to other people who have done something similar, or maybe other people in your area who have put on other things that could support you in getting started. So thank you. well, firstly, what is the date of the race? So it's in Sacramento. If people
Yes.
live in the area, when is it, so that if they can go sign up?
It is May the 4th. Yes, May the 4th be with us. Star Wars Day is part of our population refers to it as. So it's the first Saturday of May. It's going to be at Garsha Park in South Sacramento. So I'm excited. It's on Race Roster. Race Roster is one of our sponsors and community partners. So we've got a lot of great stuff in store this year. We've got some training programs, even though we're 4 weeks in, that we're 8 weeks out. We're getting Runkeeper, ASIC Runkeeper. We've got some good goodies in our swag bags. So beautiful medals. So for those who chase the bling. So I'm excited. It should be a good event, a good community-filled event, and I'm very much looking forward. We have more health and wellness providers who will be offering community classes as well.
Yeah.
So everything ranging from somatic breathing to yoga, self-defense. So there's be some good stuff out there. I'm excited to have people come join us.
Yeah,
no, thank you for the opportunity to share about it. I appreciate you. Thank you.
No, of course. So to wrap here, is there what would you like to share with the listeners? Something from any other area that you of life that you have learned, some knowledge you've learned about, some lesson that you had to learn the hard way, something that you'd like to share with the community based on what we've talked about today or otherwise?
Your voice matters, right? We hear it all the time, but sometimes we don't know how to express our voice. We don't know if it's appropriate to express it, the tone. But I would say your voice matters. And if you have something on your mind, you have feelings, you want to do or say something, head a certain path, you have to voice it. Let people know what you want. Let them know how you want to be a part of what they experience. And speak up. And if you feel like, well, Tiffany, but no one has that voice around here. What am I supposed to do? Be the first, right? If someone else is waiting for it too, find another voice. Voices harmonize, right? It doesn't have to be a solo.
I love that. That's a beautiful phrase. I love that. How do you seek out other people that can be the harmonizing voices in your life?
You know, it's taken many years. I'm just more bold about it. I just put out there what I'm looking for and how I want to contribute. And I just let the universe respond back. You know, you hear things like manifestation and calling things into being. I have just started to say, this is the thing I'd like to do, or this is the impact that I'd like to have, and I need help. Are there resources out there? And sometimes it'll be silent for a while, and then all of a sudden somebody will be like, hey, I just met somebody who I think, let me introduce you to, you know, even just how our relationship has evolved, you know, in 6 months. I never thought that just hosting an interview and a talk on the CIM stage in December would lead to such a beautiful friendship, you know, so just being open and allowing yourself to be accessible and open to opportunities that you may not even be thinking about. And all of that kind of just starts to commingle and bring things to fruition. But I say put it out there.
I love
Let them know what you can do for them and what you need to get it done.
I am absolutely with you 100%. I really do believe that most of the opportunities that have come along in my life have been through relationships, getting to know other people, and just not going at it of like, what can I get from this person? But like, with the goal of developing and fostering friendships and community wherever it may come, not seeing it as like ranking of like, this person is like a high ranking person, therefore I will seek them, but like just seeking out connecting with other human beings. I've really found that to be a beautiful thing, and something I continue to appreciate as I get older, of like, this is really bringing me the most joy in every sense of the word from those friendships. So Tiffany, I will put lots of links in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much.
I encourage listeners to go check out the Not Just for Runners 5K, and also Tiffany on social media. And Tiffany is an amazing speaker and moderator if you need her for an event. I really was blown away by you at Running USA, as was everyone in the room. It was so amazing to watch. And can't wait to see where you go in the future. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me today. Thank you to everyone out there. Take care. Don't hesitate to reach out if I can be of support or service. Appreciate you all.
Before we go any further, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Running for Real team. Without them, I would not be able to do barely anything compared to what I'm able to do today. They are behind the scenes. They are there for me. I am just so appreciative of them. To Jeremy Nessel, our podcast editor, audio consultant, and someone who's been with me since the start. To Sally Pontarelli, our content and operations manager, who is there day to day doing all the things to help me be successful. To Kelsey Wang, our head of design, and Louise Murphy, our associate designer. And finally, to Sandy Gutierrez, our photographer and content strategist. I am appreciative of all of you and wouldn't be able to do what I do without you. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Tiffany. I really loved talking to her as always, and I'm sure you see by now why I get so much from her. Actually, during that episode, we recorded this a week before my surgery, and I was saying I was feeling a bit nervous about the idea of being completely non-weight bearing for 2 weeks. And she set me a challenge, which I'm excited to do, and that is to try something new during that period, to be it a craft, be it a new food, do something that I've never done before. So I appreciate just things like that. You know, when you have those friends who just challenge you and push you a little bit to go out of your comfort zone. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can find everything we talked about today, including the Not Just for Runners 5K, including Tiffany's links, all the things that you want to check out with her, by going to Running for Real, that's FOR, runningforreal.com/episode 396. You can also find links to our sponsors in there with Precision, with HydroPack, and with AG1. Thank you to those three for supporting me and the Running for Real podcast. I will see you next week. Thanks for listening.